is just an amazing day, and it's all because of this woman right here, Miriam Kava. We can't thank you enough. And so I've been lucky enough to hear Reverend Morris speak on a couple of occasions. And each time I left feeling inspired and energized, just like I do right now from these amazing youth groups and Kumba Banks. But after I heard him speak, I felt like I could take on any issue. And I'll admit something, there have been a couple times over the last couple months where I've picked up the phone and called just to hear his voice message. It's really inspiring. So there's no better person to end this summit, to close this summit, and express that this is not an ending, but it's a beginning of much more that needs to be done to dismantle the Cradle of Prison pipeline.
Well, thank you very, very much. This has been an extraordinary several days. Fortunately, most of the organizations that have participated, I have some awareness of. And so it's been a really delight for me to be a part of today. What I want to leave with all of us are several things. One, as has been intimated several times today, the extraordinary assemblage of people of all ages, but particularly people in their teens and early 20s, who are engaged in this effort to break into this horrendous pipeline. It is to be known, though, that the pipeline is part of a larger panoply of things that have to do with aspects of our history that came far before those of us in this room were born. There are all kinds of things that make up this pipeline. Some people benefit from it. The prison industrial complex benefits from it. Sometimes our political leaders benefit from it because they're able to express how strong against crime they are. And they use that as ways of increasing their power. There are communities in this state, a state dealing with serious budgetary issues, deep deficits in the state, deep deficits in the city. So there are communities in the state of Illinois that vie with one another to be the next community where the next prison is built. So that there are economic issues around the issue that we're talking about. And many people in this room, and those of us who are older, and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren, they are a part of this potential devastating pipeline. So we have to see the larger picture. But then we have to look at, if that's the micro picture, we have to look at the micro picture. The macro picture is the larger picture. The micro picture is where we come in. So I want to commend those who are working on this issue here in various kinds of places. I do want to say to you, I want to disabuse you of the notion that any one thing that any of us do organizationally or individually is not going to overcome this issue. I will tell you that. And I don't do that to dispirit you, but so that we are aware of the enormity of the issue. There are some who understand the issue because you're right in it. And you see the devastation of high suspension rates and high expulsion rates, particularly in some communities, particularly in some schools, and particularly among certain young people of color. That's a reality that we face, you and I. But at the micro level, my brothers and sisters, there are individual accountabilities and responsibilities. For you who are working on this issue, do not be caught in the very issue about which you are working. So if you know that you have a policy in your school that is unfair, that in your passion and in your anger, don't you get sucked into becoming a statistic of the very thing you're working on. Did you hear what I said? You know better. You know better. And you can fight what you see as an injustice by being above that particular situation. Let me put it this way. There were 50,000 people in Montgomery, Alabama, prior to 1955 and the Montgomery bus boycott. They all experienced segregation and the horrors of that, the dehumanization of that. Having to pay your fare in the front of the bus to go around to the back of the bus to get on the bus, sometimes with the bus driver driving away after you paid your fare. Having to sit there as an older black man or a black woman and have a white child get on the bus, and you have to get up out of your seat because you're sitting in the front of the bus and go to the back of the bus so you can let that young whippersnapper sit down. But people didn't respond to that issue, though there had been all kinds of individual efforts. They didn't respond to that issue when a young woman got on the bus. She wouldn't obey the rules. They threw her off. But they didn't respond to her. Why? Because she was a young woman with a checkered past. Another young woman was pregnant. Oh, they said, well, that shouldn't have been a reason why the community didn't join around her. No, it shouldn't have been. But in 1950 America, in the South, it was a reason. The reason those 50,000 people came together was they arrested the wrong person. But actually, she was the right person. Her name was Miss Rosa Parks. Now, Miss Rosa Parks wasn't just a seamstress, though that's what she did for a living. She was also the youth advisor to the NAACP, youth chapter there. She was a woman who was involved in her community. She was a church woman. She was loved and respected. And when Miss Parks was arrested, no, they didn't arrest Miss Parks. Those people, 50,000 of them who had suffered indignity personally, they responded in a way they had never responded before. So I tell you leaders, you youth leaders, don't fall into the trap of having to justify your attempts for change because you've been lured into that. Stick away from that. So you stand forward, not because you are threatened because of suspension because you were late several times. No, not because you were late, because you were not late, but you also see and saw the injustice, and you gathered your colleagues to go and stand forth to make a change. That is very important for you to understand, my brothers and sisters. You have to be, I know it's not fair, but you have to be examples of that which you are fighting for.